Senator Abdullahi Adamu reign as national chairman, when the neck of the party, excuse me, when the neck of the party sat and decided to donate his powers for a period of 90 days to the Abdullahi Adamu-led NWC in order to allow them or give them overreaching powers to organize the national convention, which led to the emergence of a presidential candidate in July for the party. Like I said before, that lasted for a period of 90 days. Between July of 2022 and August the 3rd, when the NEC met again and ratified the nomination or appointment of Abdullahi Umaru Ganduje and Ajibola Bashiru as national chairman and secretary respectively of our political party, the NEC did not on the 3rd of August donate his powers to Abdullahi Umaru Ganduje. And so that is the lacuna and that is the flesh of our own argument.
Right.
That no, you do not have such powers to act as NEC. And so we now approach the court as law-abiding citizens and as persons who believe in the rule of law. To say, please, the FCC High Court, could you interpret our own constitution to us? It's like some persons have decided not to understand the letters of this constitution. Could interpret it to us and find out if our tenure has expired. Find out also if the NWC has powers to start an elected or validly elected executive. So we are in court. And so inaugurating a caretaker is like putting something on nothing. In the eyes of the law, a caretaker does not exist. And we wait for the court to make a necessary pronouncement.
Oh, okay. So in the event that this happens, and we see status quo remaining, talking about the pronouncement of the NWC, there are concerns that Mr. Okocha, who is the chairman of said committee, being a supporter of Mr. Wike, who is now working at the federal level, even though they belong to different political parties, his appointment as committee chairman, and I put that in quote right now, considering all that you have said. Now, it's therefore further fueling speculations of a defection of the FCT minister to the party. How do you react to this?
Well, we all as Nigerians have seen and have observed and do fully understand the style of politics of the immediate past government. The fact that whenever he says he is not interested in doing this thing, that is the exact thing that he wants to do. It was the APC that he actually referred to as cancer. And so, in fact, the truth is, from what is going on, it simply means that they are trying to prepare grounds for his eventual entry into the APC. But you cannot, there's no way you can bring somebody into the party through extra constitutional means. For you to, if you look at Article 8 and 9 of the APC Constitution, the one that is still under reference, amended on the 26th day of March 2022, it is clear that for you to belong to a political party, you have to get registered at the ward level. And so if the end of the party, like I earlier explained, chooses to now grant you waivers in this circumstance, then they can equally receive it. But we all know, we are aware that he has not officially joined the APC. But what is happening, including the trying to use the legal means to sweep away validly elected executives of the party, proves one point, and that is the fact that they are trying to clear the way for his eventual entry into the.
Right. Finally, before we let you go, Mr. Nwuju, now this particular development, could have come as a surprise for some and not so much for others. It's been going on for too long. I reckon sometime in 2018 or thereabout. What does this mean for the structure of the party in the States? Because it's still ongoing, as you were, which of course has led to the NWC's intervention.
Now, let me say this. Maybe I will choose to say it as a footnote. Now, I choose to make this comment as a footnote. Now, the man assuming all was well with the party, and assuming that the neck of the party had donated powers to the NWC, and they took such a far-reaching decision to form a caretaker committee of the APC. The character that has been chosen or that was nominated to chair the committee is a character that has been deeply involved in the crisis that has bedeviled the APC. Now, recall that in 2019, the names of our candidates, in fact, the APC did not participate because our candidates were delisted. And these fellows, actively sponsored the Ibrahim Umar case that led to our eventual delisting as a party from participating in 2019. In 2022 again, another electoral window, the same character, sponsored another case again that it took only the appeal court to get up red side. And so if not, we would have also ended up like in 2019, not having candidates. So now, you cannot...
But just to be clear, Mr. Nwuju, these are allegations. Yes. These are just allegations, but go on.
No, they are not mere allegations, please. We are some persons who are in politics. There are some persons who are in politics that have character, that play politics with morality, that have the fear of God. It is true that we have plenty of shenanigans in Nigerian politics, and so many persons come with all manner of shady characters. It is true that in Nigerian politics and political parties consciously promote criminality and immorality. However, there are persons whose antecedents are well known. So, for me, I cannot engage in mudslinging of making people. I am not trying to paint words. I am telling you what. If you make your independent investigations, you will find out that this is a character that has been a crisispreneur. I would refer to him as a crisispreneur. So how can somebody who has kept the party in limbo since 2019 now be the person to resolve the crisis of the party? Right. I mean, it's a joke.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Darlington Nwuju, for joining us this morning on the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Mr. Nwuju is the Rivers State APC Publicity Secretary, and he's joined us this morning to give us a state of affairs within the party that, of course, has seen the NWC wading into the matter and deciding to suspend the State Executive Council, which, of course, has been rejected. Stay close, some more conversations coming up here on Now Breakfast this morning.
You're listening to Now Breakfast.
Babes, now how much be sanitary pad for your area?
Now play we been dey play before. Everybody wey dey this place wey be human being na party dey buy take do period. She go bring her wrapper, cut all her wrapper wey she get. They use the do period. Which kind of nonsense be this?
Ijoma, see what you are saying to your fellow woman who is in need. Ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn ti pọ̀ jù.
Now so they use cloth now. Abi we no go chop first.
Auntie Joma, what did my mommy ever do to you? It's not fair.
Now, if a story be this, My Period, My Pride radio drama, Season 1. Now, Sanitary Pad Media Campaign Power Up with support from MacArthur Foundation and Radio Now 95.3 FM every Saturday at 10 a.m.
The Financial Services Regulation Coordinating Committee, FSRCC, in collaboration with the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, wishes to draw the attention of the public to the activities of illegal financial operators, IFOs, which threaten public trust and the stability of the Nigerian financial system. The general public is hereby advised to refrain from dealing with unlicensed financial operators who deceive individuals with unrealistically high investment returns. Verify the licensing status of such schemes on this website: www.cbn.gov.ng, www.nicom.gov.ng, www.pencom.gov.ng, www.sec.gov.ng. To report any suspicions of illicit financial activities, call 0700 225 5226, 0800 225 5226, or +234 817 665 6273. Announcer, FSRCC.
In order to keep up with our culture of excellence and continue to bring you the very best of radio programming, we invite you, our dear esteemed listener, to share your concerns with us on any of our content and or broadcast practices that you consider unsatisfactory. You can reach us via WhatsApp on 0809 682 2595. That is 0809 682 2595. This is for us to get your feedback on our efforts to continue to build and maintain our relationship with you and also to serve you better. Thank you for choosing Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations. From the north to the south, real people.
So like I said to you, it's some serious elements of the outdone and the issue of my party whose tenure elapsed, who are pleading with me to endorse an illegal extension, and I refuse to be a part of any illegality.
Real stories every morning.
Most of the IDPs, they stay in schools, and once they move in schools, when there is a disaster, the school in that area is automatically shut down.
This is Today in the News on Now Breakfast.
Good morning again. Today in the news here, we are talking to a newsmaker with regards to some of the questions being asked when it does concern the policies of the current administration. A removal of subsidy and floating of the Naira are just some of the major economic policies of the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But other policies in the administration's docket for implementation include the tax net increment, stabilizing foreign exchange, reducing interest rate, harmonizing tax, and of course introducing a new set of foreign exchange laws and guidelines. Now, how these policies come together to ease the economic hardship of Nigerians when implemented is the immediate concern and of course question. Professor Evans Osabunhia, a professor of economics at Covenant University, joins us this morning to shed some light and give some insight on these. Good morning, Professor. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good morning. I can hear you. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you very much. How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir. Please.
All right. Let's start with your thoughts on the economic direction of this current administration. There's too much that has been said that will be done, but as yet, we're still seeing some of these things unfold. But generally, what are your thoughts on the economic direction of the administration?
Yeah, thank you so much, Presenter, for this opportunity to talk on this economic matter. And also, thanks, wonderful audience. Economic direction is quite broad, but I will just take it from the recent speech made by the governor of CBN, who also alluded that even the vice president was also part of such an initiative at the 60th anniversary of CIBN. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
so
you.
Basically, one of the things that was mentioned, one was the issue of the angle of monetary policy regarding target of inflation. Of course, it's well and evidence everywhere that inflation is actually going beyond what's expected. So CBN is concerned about how inflation can be targeted. Okay, and another one that will be short-term and long-term later on was the issue of capital adequacy of banks, so that banks can begin to have enough capital adequate to lend to reset on others, which is so we likely, I don't know how long that will take, but we'll likely see that the required, what we saw in 2004 during the days of Surudun, there may be a kind of repeat of that to ensure that the Nigerian banks have enough is buoyant enough to lend.
Professor, with
Yes.
regards to this particular issue of the recapitalization of banks, a couple of stakeholders are saying that the move is not particularly a good one, especially if it is a short-term plan. How do you react to this?
Yes, thank you so much. I was like, you think that was from my mouth. Yeah, and like I said, it's not. It's a kind of a medium to long-term plan. So, which may make banks to give them allowance to be to prepare towards that. Yeah, in the short term, there are major issues that the citizens are still looking at, which is the issue of inflation targeting, and we also know that the banks play a crucial role in such in terms of having finance ready for stakeholders, those who go into production to produce, and then we see the pressure on the few goods available, which is like a demand push inflation. The next point I want to look at is the issue of so for your question on the capital adequacy requirement for banks. Of course, I'm also a stakeholder in the bank sector. I have to be a director in one of the commercial microfinance banks to understand what that means. Okay, there are some arguments, but CBN has not been, they've not given the exact date that will take off. It's a kind of to prepare the mind of stakeholders that this may likely take place, and so that fear shouldn't be now, but it's a thing worth thinking about. Okay, then in the immediate term is the issue of inflation, okay, which is I think many people have seen that the cost of living has becoming increasing, whether from some removal or from the much more so from the exchange exchange forex market, which has seen the naira against dollar, and much more so problematic is the issue that most of our consumer goods are imported. So whatever happened to the dollar, we see a kind of imported inflation. So in that, one is to see how we can begin to look at our domestically produced goods, and secondly, which I also said before, is to see how we can increase production. That's very crucial, and that can only be very possible, or much possible, by looking at the infrastructure, particularly power supply, because most of the productive activities that like manufacturing and other sectors depend on power supply. So if that power supply is available, we could see production increase, and that will reduce the demand for the forex, and then that will help us to circumvent the issue of the imported inflation that we are seeing now. Yeah, thank you.
Now, in one of the moves by the current administration to stabilize the foreign exchange market, the Central Bank of Nigeria went on to remove the embargo, or if you like, the ban on the 47 items that cannot access FX, and that didn't exactly help. What do you think went wrong, and how do you think it can be made right?
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. I think in a similar program like this, we've also discussed that at length, that it's like you are treating symptom instead of the disease. Okay, so the issue is that there's a huge... Hello?
We can hear you. Go on, Professor.
Yeah, so it's like the burden of some BDCs is, for me, is just to say that it's like treating... I don't have the full details on that, but basically, it's like treating symptoms of disease. what we should look at is the huge pressure on the dollar. That's on the other dollar or euros on forex. That is where the argument is, where the challenge is coming from. And even if you ban some of the BDCs, of course, that will increase the pressure, because people will not go to the available ones, and then the demand for the few ones will also be there. So that kind of outright ban may not solve the problem, because the main factor behind it has not been treated, which is the huge demand for forex, whether for people going abroad to study because of they are not sure of the economic schooling system in Nigeria, or going for demand for foreign products because they're not sure of being unavailable. So the long-term solution to that is to see how we can reduce the pressure on the forex market, which has to come with efficiency in our system and increase the production. Okay, so that's one. And particularly for even education, because I think I can't remember the figure now, that only UK alone, the number of persons have gone abroad to study, and that I think one of the former VCs of one of the universities did the calculation, it runs to trillions, and that we lose only UK economy alone due to people going to UK to study. So we can imagine that we have now have close to 260 universities in Nigeria. Imagine that we're able to sustain such in our system, so people can, and so that pressure will have been reduced. So in the long term is to see increase our efficiency, restore the confidence of Nigerians in Nigeria, and that push, that demand to go out of the country, the demand for forex will reduce. So in summary, is that what the government can do now. Yeah. Am I on?
Yes, go on, please. We can hear you.
Great. So what the government can do at the short term is to be able to restore the confidence of Nigeria. From the discussion we see across the part of the Nigeria, that most Nigerians are losing hope in Nigeria, from security, so what the onus of the government is now to begin to communicate confidence, restore confidence on Nigerians, let Nigerians see Nigeria as their own. And once that is being seen, people are relaxed to be to invest long term, because people try to do like the Japa syndrome, and you cannot estimate the kind of the pressure that is putting on our forex market. So this level we are seeing that is coming from that angle, and it's not just a one policy angle that can solve that. It's the overall confidence in Nigeria should be restored. So that would be my take on that.
Okay, now let's also talk about the willing seller, willing buyer system, which the CBN wants to do in order to make our monetary policy tools effective. What do you think the implications of these will be, economically speaking?
I think I didn't get the last point, please.
The willing seller, willing buyer system, which the CBN has said that they would implement, that's in the bid to have a unified and well-functional forex market where pricing is based on the willing seller and willing buyer system, which essentially is geared towards making our monetary policy tools effective. What do you think about this?
That is also the gospel of the IMF and the World Bank, which we saw in the SAP era, allowing the market to determine. For me, I would say there's a need for some caveats there. In most economy of the world, yes, I think there's a need for. There is no system that's fully perfect that allows the market willing seller, willing buyer. There is always the instrument of the government. Even the U.S. economy, there are times government intervenes, so the market is not always left alone on its own. Even the European economy, it's subsidized. So the willing seller, willing buyer, which is allowing the market to determine what happens, that may not be optimal. So there's also needs for some government to put some control. Okay, what we normally recommend is what we call a guided deregulation. So there's some guidance. Even though market willing seller, willing buyer to determine what happens, but there's some guidance on what the windows, what the range will be like. Because if you leave it, as we are seeing, I will see, if you leave it to willing buyer, willing seller, the outcome may be undesirable. So because even the economies of the world, like the US, there are still some element of control of the government.
We're talking with Professor Evans Osabun here. He's a professor of economics at Covenant University. He's joining us this morning to talk about the policies of the current administration get towards increasing the quality of life of Nigerians. Now, Professor, do you think, now taking into consideration all that this current administration is trying to do you think that they are headed in the right direction as far as you know?
Okay. Just also recap from the statement from the Central Bank Governor recently. I think that was this week or last weekend at the broadcast sister anniversary of CIBN. Is that the intention was clear, and the one thing that he said I appreciate was that CBN need to focus on their core mandate and leave the one that has to do with fiscal policy to the fiscal agency, which is the Ministry of Finance and the budgeting and all of that. So which is for me that was quite okay, because most time we see a kind of a policy counterproductive. One policy of the fiscal agency being counteracted by another policy of the monetary policy, and this one economy. So CBN has staying on their core mandate, which is inflation targeting and money supply. For me, it's one step I can see in that direction. And then secondly is that the macroeconomic environment needs to restore such confidence. Particularly when we see what happened in the election of the year that led to this government. So there are a lot of things to be done by the government to restore such confidence, and that will be with a number of policy communication, a number of if you like, call it restoring confidence, and that's the issue of thankfully the issue of insecurity is coming down, but we want more of that. And so when people have such confidence, they can begin to invest. Other than those in the agricultural sector will invest, those in the service sector will invest. And when that is done, we could see production coming up, we could see employment coming on, and then we could see economic activity maybe restored, and then we could be able to produce. And then when we start producing, we can even export to our ECOWAS countries, which don't require much traveling restrictions because the ECOWAS region. So when that is done, we could see the Naira begin restoring value. Because I was in Ghana just last week, and I was amazed that even CFA is even stronger than Naira now, because one CFA is more than 2 Naira, which is like a few years ago it was the reverse. So what could have led to that is this issue of confidence that are becoming an issue in the Nigerian system. So in summary, CBN focus on their core, some which they make clear, and allow the physical space to also maintain their own, so that there won't be policy of overlap. That's one direction I will appreciate. And secondly is that let's begin to restore the confidence and communicate effectively to the Nigerian populace. Nigerians want to see more government. I'll give an example. For example, we say subsidy removal, and the government says that the Nigerians should bear that it's a short-term pain. But I would have also loved to see that the government give example. For example, what will you have cost? The government says, because we are also part of the system, we reduce the salary of all our appointed offices by half. When Nigerians see that you are leading by example, when you say they should bear with you, they could see why they should bear with you. But on the contrary, we have seen that the number of ministries have increased. In Nigerian history, this is the highest number of ministries we have seen. And that put more fiscal pressure in terms of the cost of governance. And we are saying Nigerians should bear with you. So if you see this leadership by example, reduce the allowances by political offices or political players. And the Nigerian can say that you are leading by example. When you say they bear with us, that is a short-term period, they can know that you are leading by example, and the Nigerian can still understand. So we want to see more of examples, we want to see more of practical example that Nigerians, the government are very mindful of Nigerian populace.
Now, Professor, let's talk about our FDI and what Mr. President has been trying to do in recent time. Like his predecessors, the President has been making some, frequent international travels, part of his administration's drive to make sure that, he stabilizes the economy via FDI. Now, in quick succession, He's recently gone to Saudi Arabia, he's gone to Guinea-Bissau and Germany. Now, the idea of attracting foreign direct investment was also something that his predecessors before him preferred, in the Fourth Republic, but had only consistently declining investment inflows to show for their, efforts or their travels, as it were. And now that our treasury is more or less standing on one leg, or if you want to use the word bankrupt, essentially, some stakeholders are saying that rather than Mr. President doing what his previous lead or what the country's previous leaders before him had done and failed, he should rather focus on other things. I mean, in the first 6 months of office, Mr. President has visited 10 countries, I reckon. I think 9 or 10, thereabout, twice each. He's been to France and Guinea-Bissau and also the United Kingdom, Kenya, Benin Republic and India for, the same good measure and all of that. In his, recent trip to Germany, he explained that he was there, to sustain his momentum in advancing the cause of FDI in Nigeria. But some say that this is illusory because, as I said, his predecessors. We're talking about the former president Olusegun Obasanjo. We're talking about former president Goodluck Jonathan, as well as the just exited former president Muhammadu Buhari. All failed in that mission. So what do you think is the problem, and how do you think we can make this happen for us?
Yeah, for me is an argument that we have discussed severally, and I'll give my point on that. It's somebody that labor and capital flows to the place of returns. So it's not about emotions. I will go to where I know I will have returned my investment. So whether FDI, FPI, or whatever it is. So when the world understand that Nigeria system allows such environment that can create investment atmosphere, they will come on their own. You don't have to go to Nigerians go to China. Nigeria go to. I'm not saying I'll see Chinese coming to beg us for investment in China, but because they know that over there, when you invest, spend your innovation, spend your resources, you can have returns. So for me, I think that just like you alluded, the previous government did that. We didn't see returns. For even going there yourself, it doesn't make much sense of your use. Doesn't even talk about the required time for the pressure on office. Each of those countries, there's a Nigerian ambassador to those countries. Those one can be doing that. Okay, and I'll give you this example that when you say Germany is a country I've lived for years, so I understand that system very well. I'll give you a practical example. For example, there was one of the German automobile companies that was trying to establish a plant in Nigeria. Everything was in place. I have to discuss one of my friends who works there as a researcher, and just because of some laxity with the ministry involved, the CEO of the company, they've discussed to come, and they even arrived at the airport, waiting to be picked to the airport, and he called the minister and said, "I'm sorry, I'm busy elsewhere. I will send my PA." And the guy was, "This is not what we discussed." From the airport, the guy returned back to Germany. He never entered the country again. And as I speak, the company has established plant in South Africa. Because so even if we are going to build them, if we don't put our house in order, we won't get the anticipated returns. And we have seen it at the previous government and now. So instead of like we just said, instead of going about to, I don't want to say beg for FDI. You don't beg for FDI. They are investors. They have their KPIs to invest. So once that is done, I mentioned the issue of security being guaranteed in Nigeria, the issue of infrastructure being guaranteed in Nigeria. Once these are in place, FDI will flow naturally to Nigeria.
Okay.
So going to spend money that we don't have to begin to, of course, go with Esther Code and your team to across the country. For me, it's not. I won't say it's the right use of resources. It's better to do. Sit down, see how we can begin to make our economy more investment friendly.
All right.
And let me show you. In terms of the energy, is also talking about the renewable energy in Nigeria. Whether they call it the thermal energy, call it about the solar energy, the wind energy. You have the ocean. But one of my colleagues in Korea University, this is inaugural lecture. He has worked on that. just for few magical miles to the sea. The energy there power there can even fund the whole of ECOWAS region. So if Nigeria can tap into that system, create a environment that people cannot bring their money, they are sure that there won't be policy so much to take it tomorrow, and we can meet our own energy demand, and they even begin to export energy to ECOWAS country all around us. So we have all the resources available. Let's see how we can create the environment.
All right.
FDI on their own will come naturally.
All right.
Don't forget what I said earlier, that labor and capital will flow to place of returns, not emotion.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us this morning on the program. Professor Evans Osabun here is a professor of economics at Covenant University. Many thanks, Professor, for giving us your time. Professor Evans has been our newsmaker on the segment, and that's it on today's package for our newsmaker segment this morning. Stay close. The news headlines comes up in a few clicks, and afterwards we'll get into some more conversations inside the news review. I am David Shiru. Good morning.
We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. The news that matters the most is the news that hits closest to home. If it touches your business, your family, your city, your schools, or your safety, we've got you covered. Everything that affects you is our concern. So, we go beyond, getting all the facts and serving you news and information you can trust.
There was 10 million liters of fuel made available at some point, which was not made available at the time because obviously it had to be brought in.
The attack this Gayo village, Keru, and the Takalafia village yesterday is one of the many attacks.
Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. Beyond the news.
Across Nigeria, Africa, and the world, this is Radio Now News.
The news headlines this morning on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. In local news, Navy intercepts over 150 bags of foreign rice in Lagos. FEC approves 27.5 trillion naira for 2024 budget. Mele Kyari reappointed as NNPC Limited CEO by President Tinubu. Reps probe mismanagement of COVID-19 funds. In business and economy, companies raise salaries by 4.6 trillion naira in 6 months, says NBS. On the foreign scene, Gaza truce extended by 2 days. And to sports, Xavi says Porto match represents turning point for Barcelona in Champions League. And these are the headlines at this hour on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. Many thanks for listening. I am David Chied. Up next is the news review. Good morning.
Sports News. This is Radio Now News.
This is Now Breakfast.
Stay tuned to your Beyond the News station daily for our up-to-the-minute compact news bulletins from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., bringing you a wide range of local and international news from our news desk. Stay informed, stay updated on Radio Now 95.3 FM.
Be a part of our online community on Facebook. Like our page on www.facebook.com/This is Radio Now to join every conversation on air and get up-to-date news information on the go. This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations. Let's go beyond the news. Let's talk facts.
First and foremost, the government will never kowtow to the threat of any group to give it conditions.
Let's discuss your opinion.
The politicians in Nigeria don't understand the principle of politics.
The day's biggest news stories.
IPOB has been covered in themselves in glory. There is nothing special about them. It's like a witch cried at night and the child died following morning.
This is the news review on Now Breakfast.
Welcome again to the news review on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos this morning, Tuesday, the 28th of November 2023, and I am David Chiedu. Joining us this morning for analysis and then some is Mr. Biodun Shoumi. Good morning, Mr. Shoumi. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right, and you can join us as well to give your thoughts on the stories we're covering this morning and essentially dissecting. 091 35000953 0901 1111 1953 and on WhatsApp. It's also important to share your thoughts with us via that platform as well, and we'll take them as they come. 0809 682 2595. That is 0809 682 2595. Now let's get on straight to the conversation, dive head first, and we're starting this morning with the front page of the Guardian newspaper that talks a big word there, essentially qualifying the budget as unambitious. That is, of course, according to the Guardian newspaper. The kicker there says $1 trillion economy. And then, of course, the headline, federal government proceeds with unambitious budget, proposes 27.5 trillion naira next year. And then, of course, the writers underneath that, Tinubu to present appropriation bill to NAS tomorrow, culture of debt financing, spurious revenue parameters, benchmarking continue, government constrained by exhausted debt allowance, growth projection inconsistent with Tinubu's economic ambition. Nigeria should be spending 10 times to maximize its potential, says Adi. Now, Biodun, what are your thoughts regarding this? We see the FEC yesterday approving a total expenditure of 27.5 trillion naira for next year, endorsing the continuation of some appropriation benchmarks and what some have termed unambitious public spending. What are your thoughts regarding this?
I have a different viewpoint. When you look at the issue of $1 trillion economy, the president is talking about the overall size of our GDP, which is achievable on one part. The other side of it is, which has some merit, is that the growth projections ranging from 2.4 to about 4.6% over a period of 6 years in itself will represent 21% increase in our GDP. If you take our GDP currently and you had the 21% in 6 years, it means we'll still be short of about $200 billion, to achieve the $1 trillion economy. So within that perspective, if all factors, should go play well for the federal government, at least we will be making some progress. Even if we don't achieve it, we'll be close to it. Yes, for those who are saying that it's not ambitious enough, it needs to be funded. The question is, nobody is talking about where the funds will come from. Because if we have to fund, already we're in trouble with debt. And thanks to increase in productivity and projections of stable income at about $75, or $77 per barrel of oil. And if all that goes well, that will inject some new funds in while at the same time we need to redeem, the debts which are due. So consequently, there is most unlikely going to be a significant or a huge increase, in funds that will be available due to prior commitments made by successive governments. So therefore, I don't think it's fair, to while there's a merit to say that we may not achieve the $1 trillion in 6 years, but at least we will be very close to it. But I don't really agree that we necessarily need to look for more money to invest, because we also should not ignore the role of the private sector. If you create the necessary conditions, we may have funds coming in either through foreign direct investment or local investors, particularly in agriculture, which can rapidly, expand the GDP.
Now, this is interesting because this 27.5 trillion naira budget essentially translates to a per capita, or if you like, per citizen spending plan of 127,000 naira, or just $150. Considering all of these, some would say that this isn't particularly what the Nigerian people are looking forward to, if at all, is going to, give anyone, if you like, a good lease of life or a better lease of life in the coming year. What do you make of it, or how do you react to this?
Yes, when you look at it from that angle, you probably will feel that is not significant enough, to uplift the living standards of Nigerians. But we should not forget one thing, that one, the major issue is the high cost of food and unemployment. If we are able to tackle unemployment, that would lead to increased revenue, increased productivity within the economy. And if we are able to take, for instance, take away wheat and PMS away from the forex table, what you are likely going to have is huge in terms of new revenue that will be available. For instance, we spend about between $25 and $30 billion a year on wheat and forex, and take that away from the table. You have new forex, either for a foreign reserve or available for people who wants to import, to assets. So that would significantly change the situation. If the federal government projection is correct, that by the end of this December, Port Harcourt refinery will come on stream. If Dangote has been expected will come on stream also by the end of this year, with 300,000 barrels per day, then obviously things should begin to improve. But like we all know, budget is just an estimate. It does not mean that those estimates and figures cannot be reviewed when the situation, changes or improved. What we have currently is based on the current projections, based on the state of the economy.
And speaking about the state of the economy, we do know that inflation has made things a lot worse than it was before. Right now, it's 21.4%. Economic growth projected to be 3.76%. And all of these is coming with the other indices talking about the exchange rate and the oil price being at $77 per barrel, and then the exchange at $7.50 per dollar, and everything else in between. However, they're still concerned as to whether or not it would really bode well for Nigerians. But then again, according to the Minister of Mr. Bagudu, Minister for Budget and Economic Planning, has put it out there that there is a projected revenue from this, budget presentation. Projected revenue set at 18.2 trillion naira, which is higher than that of the 2023 revenue. But broad strokes, I'm wondering how, it would crystallize to make my life better. Across the board, we've heard a number of stakeholders talk about, a people-focused budget, people-centered budget, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. So for you, Biodun, what would this be like, or what should this look like? A people-focused budget rather for 2024.
Yes, when you look at steps being taken currently, which are also being hampered by some other factors. For instance, when you look at the issue of food, in order to bring the cost of food down, the federal government has allowed the importation of foodstuff into the country. But the problem is there is no forest to import them. And when you don't have the forest to import them, the food will not come in, so the prices will still remain high. We need to be aiming for a single-digit inflation. We are in a double-digit inflation. And what we need to experiment on, which I think should get the desired focus, is on the creative skills industry, particularly when it comes to innovative technologies. And I'm pleased that there seems to be some attention being given to that, so that we can develop the youths and get them, to develop their skills and bring out, innovative products which can allow us, to hand some money from new technologies. The second aspect in 2024 is for us to develop the marine sector. Yes, we now have a minister for blue economy, but we really need to develop it beyond the scope of what is being taught of currently. I will give you a good example. We've always been complaining of flooding when the dams were opened up, either in Oyo Dam or in Cameroon. But we need to take advantage of it, through the blue economy, which is dredge the whole River Benue to be able to contain the water in a way that you cannot build a new economy around it, rather than asking people every year to move upland, because of the water. We can create a new economy completely around that. So we need to think creatively like that. Then government needs to invest more than what they are proposing to do in agriculture, particularly to help farmers. Is not only just about clearing the land, giving them the seeds, to plant, but is also by ensuring that the roads are motorable, and that would reduce the cost of food. If many of the farming communities are in rural areas, and when the roads are bad, the cost of transportation is high, and they will have to pass it on, to consumers, which is also partly responsible for that. I know government is aiming, to do some palliatives and some reconstruction, but I don't think we have voted enough money, for road construction in the country. Yes, it is true. The state government will necessarily have to be the one to do the rural areas, but we must have a coordinated approach to make road development as a proxy for the development of other sectors of the economy.
All right, 0913-5000-953. Those are the numbers to call. Good morning, John. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I'm really, let me commend Mr. Abiodun on his enthusiasm as well as regards projections for growth in the economy. When you consider the fact that the Nigerian economy has actually never grown substantially within an APC government. So I applaud his enthusiasm, though I do not share it. Secondly, I do not see how a government, especially the APC government, is interested in economic growth when the core indices for growth in an economy, manufacturing, have absolutely almost no bearing on their plans. Power is still moribund. The exchange rate is terrible and is killing industry. So I do not understand how they want to benchmark or even think about growing when a fundamental aspect of the economy, manufacturing, is so hampered by these infrastructural deficits. And like he said, roads are still terrible all over the country. Access to market is terrible, especially for manufacturers and farmers and so on. The APC government, in my view, has never had its eye or its finger on an economy, on how to grow an economy. As far as I'm concerned, they are the worst government we've had in terms of our economy. And I do not see anything changing anytime soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. 091350953, 0901 1111953, and on WhatsApp 0809682295. Let's segue to another story that, quite frankly, I consider very risible and ludicrous. But hey, it isn't about me at this point in time. The Daily Trust this morning reports, "We will never be overwhelmed by mob," says CJN. The writers underneath that, "Judges must avoid embarrassing judiciary." Yadudu says, "Courts deciding election winners bad for polity." And that's according to the PDP elders. Now, I don't know if you came across this story, Abiodun, earlier, where the CJN had to, speak with regards to, the overwhelming criticism that, quite frankly, can be inundating at some point, and this is following the rulings on electoral disputes here and there, which led to the sacking of some governors and lawmakers, many of whom accused the judges of bias, especially with the one we saw sometime last week toward the end, the controversies that trailed the quote and unquote mistakes or errors, if you like, observed in the true copy or the certified true copy of the judgment of the Court of Appeal that had the Kano State Governor Abba Yusuf sacked. Now, all of that has essentially coalesced to, make the judiciary look very, very bad in the eyes of the electorate. And then he's saying, listen, we're not going to be sucked into this, so we're not going to be overwhelmed by the mob. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, the Chief
by the way, to just add to that, protest rocked Kano. This is, of course, off the back of what we're talking about. Protest rocked Kano yesterday, where demonstrators came out denouncing the recent judgment of the Court of Appeal that sacked the governor. But yes, go on with your thoughts.
Yes, when you look at the situation of our country today, many people are paying less attention to provisions of the law and procedures of the law, because it's not just about what you think should happen. There are issues that must be, your case must be totally consistent with the principles and the provisions of the law. Judges do not make law, they only interpret them. It's the National Assembly that made those laws, and the judges or the people of Nigeria, and then the judges will only have to interpret and say, this is exactly the position of the law, this is the intention of those who drafted this law. In the case of elections, you will notice that those who are contesting are political parties and their candidates, and politics by its nature is partisan in nature. And what the Chief Justice of Nigeria is saying is that no matter what people think, we don't go by that. We go by the evidence provided, to the judge. A judge is not a Father Christmas. They do not donate, judgments. If you don't ask for a relief, a judge will not grant it. And if you ask for a relief in a particular case, you realize that if you are able to prove or establish your case in line with the provisions of the law, you will win the case. So in many cases, we've seen lawyers, not doing a thorough job, only expecting, judges to be swayed by emotions. We've seen campaign through social media and billboard, on cases. Like, for instance, this latest Kano incident where people still some women went out, to protest. You will ask yourself, what are they protesting against? Protesting against the decisions of the court, when judges have found that the governor was not properly elected. So if should that be the case, why don't you go to Supreme Court and let the Supreme Court look at the issue? And if eventually is found one thing, then let it be, because there must be a form of adjudication. We can't live in a society where everybody will have their way. If one party insists on protesting today, the other party will insist on protesting tomorrow if they lose one case or the other. That should not be the country we all aim for. We should be aiming for a country, a democratic country, guided by the rule of law. So within that context, I think the Chief Justice of Nigeria is right.
All right. 0913500953, 0901111953. But even in the midst of all of those, didn't it worry you just a little bit where there was, the talk of errors happening somewhere along the line with regards to the CTC in the Kano case? Did that bother you a little bit?
Yes, it bothers me a bit, and I will tell you why. It is only God that is infallible. Human beings can make mistakes. In the case of Kano, I don't even think it's a mistake. I think it's a contrived mistake, just to create the kind of confusion that we're beginning to see, to create a basis to weaken or to challenge the judiciary. You can't put anything past, partisan politicians, because the judge read the judgment. That judgment was also recorded not only by the press, but also by individuals. So there is no way how the judge will change that judgment. So what would have happened is there must be an interloper somewhere who decided, to influence the typing of that judgment one way or the other to achieve what we've seen currently. That should never have happened. It's quite very embarrassing, but it has happened, and we can only work to prevent it in future.
Well, they did say that it was a clerical error, but yeah, we we saw the whole gamut last week, and we're still reeling from it, particularly those in Kano State. Good morning, Dr. Paul.
Good morning, Theodore and your guest here. Your guest now try to plan and think out the segment of the Chief Judge of Nigeria. It's quite unfortunate. Lawyers are not infallible. If you agree with me, they can give a judgment that will be suspicious by the members of public. As the saying goes, at least me, I don't, take conclusion on that. But that's the reality. That where a child is pointing hand, I repeat, where it's the father or the mother must be there or will be there. So if the justice are telling us that public opinion is nothing to write home about, why are we making contribution? Why are we making contribution? People should stop talking. Whatever they have taken like that. So I expected the Chief Judge to bring a reform that any erring judge must be punished. And not to tell us that public opinion is rubbish. I don't know that personal class, not like that. There was a time I've been advocating that in football we have VAR. When they center referee as an umpire, decide. Here we say no, go back. And the thing became Supreme Court judgment should not be final. They are not infallible. I repeat, they are not infallible. We should have set up a committee after giving their judgment. So refuse, because in football, all these things have been having this before VR came. Any decision from the region, VR has the final say. When they are telling us Supreme Court remains supreme, whatever they say, we take it. You don't need to ask questions as if they are God. We should revisit this thing because this is a causing problem in this country. Look at what the judgment as if it's
But Dr. Paul, where would you rather the judgment goes, because the final ceiling is the Supreme Court?
That is what I'm saying. Are you telling me, David, there's no judgment from them that is a big controversy where the truth is not there? But we look like and think that yes, it's from Supreme Court. Are you telling me, David, since you are alive, you never question any decision from judgment from Supreme Court and Appeal Court? These are the issues. What are the background of those judges today at the field? Do you know of their background? These are gone in those of Chudo, Foot, and all the area of Salamis of this world. You see the kind of judges we have now. As one day the House read it, I'll be accused the judiciary of anything. We should go back from the basis. Why Nigerians are now condemning the judiciary? Are we saying that what we are saying? There's no truth in it. There's no truth. Public opinion, no sense. And we make contribution already. There's no public opinion. We should ask ourselves this question. The judiciary to me needs total overhauling. The chief judge that is talking, tell me the reform in blood judiciary. Maybe next year this year will retire. Tell me the things that assume office at chief judge. Tell me the reform in blood. Or status quo will continue. Status quo will continue. And that is why politicians are having their way.
Right.
When somebody do the right thing, go to court in a country. It's quite unfortunate.
Okay,
and the way we are going, it will take us on a imaginable and unthinkable situation in this country. I've been saying this.
All right.
To share in it, total overhauling.
All right,
whether you like it or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paul. D. Joseph is with us this morning. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
All right. Share your thoughts with us.
Yes, I agree with this scholar that just finished now. And you and I know that when a lecturer is good, the student will tell you the lecturer is good. They don't even need the vice chancellor to tell you that the lecturer is good. It's the people that will tell you that, okay, what you did or what you have said, okay, we agree with you. Even if you have your technicalities and whatever rules of the court, we all know. You can't tell me that somebody who kills because the law did not say this, so you were not going to penalize him. Or because somebody who has committed offense, you punished one, you did not punish the other. It doesn't make sense. What kind of judgment is that? I disagree with you, just completely disagree, because I expect the Chief Justice to say something that we balance the situation. You caution your judges. You also make them to realize that they are serving people. Not telling that they should not mind. They should just turn deaf ears to what. Why will you turn deaf ears? You are talking about us, so you can't turn deaf ears to us. And why did he not refer to some of those judges, some of those cases that have some issues? Why did he not just mention, we are handling issues like that? You don't just go parallel. You're a woman. In fact, I've told somebody before that what we need in this country, we need an app that will give us judgment, not human being. We develop app. When you put the case inside and you put all the rules and the laws or the constitution inside, the app should automatically tell us who is wrong and who is right. Because what is going on now, our judges are being influenced. They are being come out of it because of the situation of the country. They can't come out of it. They should play the mess that is in the judiciary. How did they come about those places? All those people they are appointed, who appointed them? These are the issues. So at the end of the day, you say Supreme Court is final. That is why I hear people say, let's go to the court, go to the court, go to the court. Please, I think it's not working. Something should be done. Today you could be enjoying it. Tomorrow it could be our turn. Your own generation will be suffering it. So we need something to come up to handle it. If we can develop app, we should just develop it straight. And when you put the constitution inside, when you bring your case, you start it inside, the app will search it and know who is wrong and who is right, and then we'll go ahead. So that is my take, sir.
All right then. Thank you very much, Lee Joseph. Okay, perhaps in another, century that could happen or something. I don't know. 091-350-953. But to answer your question, D. Joseph, judges in the courts are appointed by the president on the recommendation of the National Judicial Council and also approved by the Senate. So judges of the State High Court are appointed by the state governors and also on the recommendation of the NJC, that is the National Judicial Council, and also approved by the State Assembly. Hi, Uche. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
It's David. Yes, David.
Yes, sorry. So I kind of disagree with your guest this morning. And I want to toe the path of the last two callers. I think we've seen one of the most controversial judiciary under the leadership of Justice Kayode, the current CJN. And his utterances and his actions, leave very, very little to be expected and hoped for in terms of changes. He seems adamant. Remember, this was the same man who, when he assumed headship of the judiciary, in his very first public outing, where the former Rivers State Governor, Wike, was still the governor, he hosted the G5 governors who were, rebelling against the PDP at that time to a banquet. And he called the Chief Justice came out and made certain utterances that sounded like he was taking the sides of the G5 governors because he was from Oyo State and his own governor was part of. He said some kind of things that you wouldn't expect. I mean, those were probably very innocent comments, but you wouldn't expect at that level for those kind of comments to come out from such a high official because of how they are bound to be misinterpreted in a political situation. Now, this is the same man whom, under his leadership, we have seen all manner of absurdities, all shapes of absurdities. And he has come out to say things like, that sounds like he's dismissing public opinion and public outcry. Nobody is asking for the judiciary to be subject to the mob or to be subject to public outcry. But there's got to be a fine balance. And that is where the leadership comes into play. There are judgments that have been extremely absurd. And we all know there are errors that should not have been permitted at all that have happened. What happens to taking accountability for those? The Chief Justice is acting like somebody who is about to set this country on fire. And to be very honest, if not for the docility of Nigerians, are remarkably very docile. If not for that docility, to be very honest, the kind of things that we are seeing from the judiciary can set the country ablaze. Rather than the Chief Justice being more circumspect, the Chief Justice seems to be going on a rogue path. And so I feel like everybody that is concerned about this country should call him to order. Nobody's asking for the mob to dictate what the judicial direction should be. But what we are asking is for a fine balance, and there should be accountability. People should be seen to be punished for doing the wrong thing. We cannot say that we have not seen the judicial officers doing the wrong thing. Look at the appointments of the High Court judges. I mean, most of them are. We've seen very, very terrible situations of girlfriends of politicians and cousins of politicians and extended family members of serving justices of the Supreme Court. It just looks like the judiciary has fallen under the influence of those, who have the money bag. And that is what it's looking like day by day. It's no longer looking like the fair judiciary that we knew right from the military era down to the point, of the inception of democracy. It's looking for something very different. And I think something needs to be done urgently. Or perhaps let's just hope that this man will get to his retirement very quickly and just leave his thing. Let's hope that somebody more intelligent and sane can come on as the Chief Justice and do what we need to do to sanitize that judiciary, because he clearly lacks the capacity to sanitize the judiciary. It's very, very clear. He has been one of the worst Chief Justices we've seen in this country.
All right, thank you very much, Uche, for your thoughts. Earlier, Dr. Paul did talk about, he did name drop. He name dropped the chair of the Human Rights Violations Investigations Commission at the time, talking about the late Justice Chukwudifu Oputa, the one whom we knew as one of the legal juggernauts in the system. It was a simpler time, if you know what I mean. And I was going to add a happier time too, but I want to be careful with my words. All right, Biodun, let me let you respond to the comments so far and to round up your thoughts.
I think at times we are being unfair on the Supreme Court. I'm not actually referring to Justice Ariwoola. We've been having problems. Several administrations have tried to interfere with the operations of Supreme Court, right from the days of Walter Onogen, who was more or less stopped from being the Chief Justice of Nigeria, down to when we had Buhari's regime haunting Supreme Court judges, with EFCC and DSS. We had that. up to the current ongoing suspicion. What seems to be clear to me is that many people are not aware that Supreme Court is not a court of trial. The court of trial is the High Court. If they only look at if you are dissatisfied with the judgment, because it is only the High Court that will hear the case, look at the demeanor of the person testifying before them, and then make up their mind on the basis of evidence presented. The job of Court of Appeal or Supreme Court is to look at what they have done. Can the evidence presented supported the verdict which the court gave? That is just their role. The problem is not there. Once you get the Court of First Instance wrong, the High Court, once you fail to produce enough evidence or you are not able to convince the High Court, at the end of the day, you will never be able to convince the Supreme Court. That is the fact of the matter. So, while we all feel that we are concerned about our Supreme Court currently, we only need to look at where we copy presidential system of government, which is United States. There's always controversy over the appointment of judges into Supreme Court. You remember the case of Justice Clarence Thomas, that black judge who was seen to be a conservative judge, and then the Democrats were all up in arms that the Republicans appointed him simply to hit their own case. So it's always a problem. But which other fairer way do we have or method of appointing judges beyond what we have currently?
All right.
I don't know.
All right.
Because God is not going to come down and appoint judges for us.
Of course not. All right. Thank you very much, Abiodun Shomi, for joining us this morning on the show. Do appreciate your time and analysis as always.
Thank you for having me.
And also thank you very much for participating and calling into the show. We do appreciate you. Let's do this again tomorrow. But do stay close. Business Now is up next. Aramide Folorun Show is in the studio to let you in on the latest in business. Now breakfast continues after that. I'm David Chiedu. Stay tuned.
We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
News and information go around every second. The ones who deliver it and how matter. We give you depth, substance from the real sources.
I made statements in that regard, and the first point I called was the National Working Committee.
There wasn't any agreement between Bashir Machina and Ahmad Lawan.
The DPO, the Divisional Police Officer who is on grounds there, went there.
Also giving you a more human angle on the events that matter.
They are not people that live in mansions, but they are people that live in the localities, and the people are afraid to.
That's so many issues there in area boys. Then we now went to.
Let's cut the convention and rather have a conversation. Radio Now 95.3 FM, Lagos. We go beyond the news.
Connect with us now via our social media channels. Facebook.com/RadioNow953FM.
We're on Twitter too. Connect with us there and get involved.
At Radio Now 953FM. 953FM. Like what we do? Share it on your socials and tell everyone.
Want to see some more of us? Head over and meet us on Instagram
at Radio Now 953FM. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
From the Central Business District of Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, this is 95.3 Business Now.
A warm welcome to the program, everyone. I am Aramide Folorun Show, and it's Tuesday, the 28th of November. These are the business quick takes. Radisson Hotel International, in partnership with the Edo State government, has announced its planned expansion in Nigeria with the signing of Radisson Hotel to be located in Benin City. The 169-room hotel, scheduled to open within the next 12 months, is the group's 12th hotel in Nigeria and officially marks their debut in Benin City. The Nigeria Export-Import Bank and the government of Mexico have partnered to explore the development of Nigeria's mining sector in order to achieve maximum benefit for the economy. The executive director at Nexim Bank, Stella Okotete, advocated for partnership and collaboration to expand access of Nigerian goods to the Mexican market and boost foreign exchange earnings. Well, the Federal Executive Council has approved the 2024 appropriation bill, with aggregate expenditure figure of 27.5 trillion naira. The Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Atiku Bagudu, announced this on Monday. He said that the targeted revenue for next year is 18 trillion naira. The minister added that the further details of the budget will be released when the President Tinubu makes his presentation of the budget to the National Assembly on Wednesday. And Bagudu also announced that the council has approved the revised 2024 to 2026 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper, which will be submitted along with the 2024 budget. Well, hundreds of accounting professionals from across the African continent are expected to gather in South Africa for the 4th Africa Members Convention starting December the 6th to the 8th. The 2023 edition of the annual AMC conference, entitled Empowering Finance Professionals for Sustainable Development in Africa, will focus on innovative technologies, integrated thinking for sustainable business practice, international sustainability reporting, developing trade competencies, and enabling members to develop career in building a better world. Well, the Bank of Ghana on Monday maintained a record interest rate of 30% for the second time in a row, aiming to lower the country's inflation rate from 35.2%. The financial regulator also increased the cash reserve ratio of bank deposits to 15% from 14%, effective from November the 30th. Ernest Addison, the governor of the Ghanaian Central Bank, says the interest rate is maintained at 30% due to the country's tight monetary policy, relatively stable currency, and base drift effect. Well, coming up after the break, we'll take a look at the newly announced board of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited. Join us again, everyone.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
On air, online, and on your mobile. This is Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
Connect with us now via our social media channels. Facebook.com/RadioNow953FM.
We're on Twitter too. Connect with us there and get involved.
At Radio Now 953FM. 953FM. Like what we do? Share it on your socials and tell everyone.
Want to see some more of us? Head over and meet us on Instagram
at Radio Now 953FM. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
Welcome back to Business Now. President Bola Tinubu on Monday appointed Pius Akinyulure as the non-executive board chairman of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and retained Mele Kyari as the group chief executive officer of the state-owned oil company with effect from December the 1st. Now, other members of board appointed by President Tinubu include Umar Ajiya, Ledometi, Musa Tumsa, Gali Mohammed, Professor Mustafa Aliyu, David Ogbodo, and Eunice Thomas. Let's bring in Ayorinde Akinloye, an investment strategist and research professional, to discuss this latest appointments at the NNPC. Good morning, and thanks for coming through for this conversation.
Thank you, I'm having me.
All right, you're welcome, sir. So, what are your initial thoughts on these appointments at the NNPC?
Well, I mean, I think basically it's in line with the Constitution in terms of the Petroleum Industry Act, the specifications, in terms of appointing non-executive chairman, the CEO, NNPC, the CFO, and then I think six non-executive members, from the six geopolitical zones, and then representative of the Ministry of Petroleum and the like. So I think it's quite. I mean, what it speaks is the fact that we should see a bit of continuity in terms of all the policies and the direction that the NNPC has been going through. If suddenly the president decided that he wanted to appoint a new CEO and the like, he's like to represent the disruptions to all the progress that maybe they have made so far this year and in the past few years that Mele Kyari has been the NNPC CEO. So I think the positives that we can take from this is the continuity, and then when you also look at the composition of the board, particularly the non-executive chairman, he was, I think his last work, active work experience was in the oil and gas sector with Mobil also. So I think he also has quite good experience within the oil and gas sector, and that could be quite positive initiative in terms of reshaping Nigeria's oil and gas sector and positioning for, the position for more efficient operations and, giving value to the country from our oil and gas resources.
Let's talk more on that. What are your expectations in terms of how the new board should reshape and refine the NNPC as a private national oil company?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of work for NNPC to do, really, and for the board to do. You look at the fact. I mean, earlier I mentioned that the fact that there is continuity will be a positive one, but the truth is there's still a lot of work for them to do, and a lot of work that should have been done in the past that have not been done. So, for example, they need to, add all the issue of divestments by, the international oil and gas companies, and selling these assets to other operators who want to make more efficiency of these assets. All these transactions should be closed within the shortest time possible in order to ensure that, new investments are attracted to those assets. Also, the NNPC, the new board of the NNPC will need to work with, the security agencies to actually look at how they can set up a quality security framework for our oil and gas infrastructure across the country, across all the pipelines, terminals and all. Then, there are other things, such as, exploring our gas resources, also cleaning up, the NNPC's books, particularly when you look at the balance sheet of the NNPC, ensuring that, the books are, cleaned up and, basically position the business entirely. So these are like three critical things that I would say the board must tackle head on. The oil and gas, security of the oil and gas infrastructure of the country, the two, cleaning up the books of the NNPC, and then also looking at working to ensure that the NNPC is well positioned, in order to sort of deliver the value that the value that was expected for this as a company.
But again, how soon do you think the new NNPC board should prepare for the company for an IPO?
Well, I mean, it ties into what I said earlier. I think the NNPC has a lot of work to do. A lot of work still needs to be done. So, for example, when you look at when NNPC wants to do an IPO, it would be one of the biggest initial public offerings in Nigeria due to the size of the business of the company, right? And in order to successfully execute those kind of transactions, you not only need local investors, you need foreign investors to also invest in that kind of IPO. So, do we think that the NNPC is well positioned to be able to attract foreign portfolio investments? I don't think they are that position yet. So, like I mentioned earlier, the NNPC needs to clear its books, make sure the books are in order in the NNPC balance sheet, ensure that income revenue growth is consistent, and then there's efficiency in terms of operations, in terms of cost and things like that. So they are all in-house issues that NNPC needs to get. I think the CEO of the NNPC sort of alludes to that thing a few years back. He mentioned that it will take roughly, about 3 or 4 years before the NNPC would IPO, and that was, I think, in 2021 or 2022. So I don't think the NNPC will be ready for an IPO for at least maybe at the minimum, that's been optimistic, minimum of 2 years at the minimum. I think maybe 2025. But more realistically, maybe another 3 to 5 years because of all the work that needs to be done in the oil and gas sector to ensure that they are quite attractive. Also, the economic situation was improved in terms of foreign exchange, because the foreign investors will be investing in an IPO, then the foreign exchange market must be functioning properly and must be liquid enough for them to also invest. So you have to also look at the timing in terms of the economic situation. So these are all things that needs to be considered before an IPO.
Okay, so quickly, let's just take a look at this last one. In what other strategic oil and gas sector development do you think the new board, how should they drive the NNPC?
Well, again, away from just the traditional oil focus, I think the new board also needs to actually significantly look at how we can tap into our gas resources. The truth is, yes, we are rich in oil, but we are also very rich in gas. Probably much more richer in gas than in oil. So we need to look at the board needs to look at how we can actually, how NNPC together with its busy partners, and other operators that it works with within the oil and gas sector, how can we actually maximize these gas resources? How can we reposition NNPC? How can we reposition the oil and gas sector such that it will be attractive enough to attract necessary funding from investors into that space? Because it will feed into a lot of the projects Nigeria wants to do. There's a clamor to go into CNG. we need the raw, the gas feedstock to be able to go into processing all these different gas derivatives, LPG, LNG, and CNG and the like. So we need to really maximize that. Then also we need to look at the new energy space. So that is also a different route that the board of NNPC can also push the NNPC to go towards new energy sources. How can they contribute into electrification projects through renewable energy across the country? Using renewable energy sources and the like. So these are all things that the NNPC board can also sort of look at driving the NNPC towards over the next couple of years that they will be in position.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. Ayorinde Akinloye, investment strategist and research professional. Do have a great day ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you. So let's walk you through the Monday's trading day. We're starting with equities. The stock market in Nigeria kicked off with strong buying sentiment driven by bullish sentiment on big banks and on the news last Friday by the central bank that a recapitalization in the banking sector is on the way. That's coming in 2024. Now, leaders at the NGX on Monday were FBN Holdings, a whopping 10% recorded there. Zenith Bank up also 1.73% in the positive. We've got UBA 1.44%, Access Corp 4.32%. All of these driving the all share index up by 0.17% and the market value higher by 132 billion naira. Well, across frontier African markets, the Egyptian main index roared by a whopping 2.39%. The Kenya Burst fell 1.12% on profit taking. Here in West Africa, the regional exchange in Abidjan dipped by 0.10%, and the Ghana stock market pulled back by 0.75% as the central bank held policy rate at 30%. However, if we look at the Southern African region, the Zimbabwe stock market reported a 0.92% gain, while the JSE, that's in South Africa, was negative, ending trading at 0.45%, led by resources companies. So we're here on Broad Street. Overnight lending rate among commercial banks in Nigeria narrowed by 533 basis points to 24.6%, and that's in the absence of any significant inflow into the system. And the Nigerian Treasury bill secondary market activities closed on a mixed note. The average yield was unchanged at 10.5%. Well, the Treasury bond secondary market traded bullish as the average yield declined by 5 basis points to 15.9%. Trading on fixed income at FMDQ Securities Exchange was bullish on Monday, totaling more than 300 billion naira as investors hunt for yield as the central bank plans for a single interest rate regime. So let's check the local currency. That's in foreign exchange. The naira started the new week on a back footing, losing 2.4% against the US dollar, ending at 814 naira 60 kobo against the dollar, apparently at the official window. So quickly, we'll look at oil prices, which rose on Tuesday, snapping a multi-session losing streak ahead of a crucial meeting of OPEC Plus that's coming up on Thursday, which is widely expected to deepen and extend cuts to oil production amid fears of supply being consistently higher than demand. So Brent crude futures were up 45 cents or 0.6% at $80.43 a barrel, on track to snap a 4-day losing streak. The U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures were trading 43 cents higher, also 0.6% at $75.28 a barrel after falling for 3 straight sessions. OPEC Plus, which combines the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC, and the allies, including Russia, will hold an online ministerial meeting on November the 30th to discuss production targets for 2024. Now, the group, whose move last week to postpone the meeting to iron out disagreements over production target for African producers sent oil prices tumbling, has since moved closer to a compromise for OPEC Plus sources told Reuters on Friday, potentially helping the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia edge closer to consensus on deepening oil production cuts. And that's your business now for today, Tuesday the 28th. I am Aramide Florenshaw. We thank you for listening. It's bye for now.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
I'm Chris. I'm a trader operating a chain of supermarkets. I engage in monthly comfortable contributions with my insurance company. It gave me the opportunity to inject capital into my business during peak periods and reap handsome returns. I never knew that an insurance company can be that helpful. Kudos to Mutual Benefits Assurance for such innovative and business-sustaining insurance products.
Take advantage of the delightful offers and experience the peace that comes with knowing that you can count on Mutual Benefits Assurance